Win Bigly by Scott Adams. Scott Adams is the creator of the wildly popular Dilbert cartoon. He is also the author of several books, including Win Bigly, the subject of this video. Whenever I hear the word persuasion, I think of Scott Adams. He put what he calls the persuasion filter in front of my eyes the first time. In Win Bigly, he teaches us all about persuasion and the persuasion filter to the backdrop of the 2016 US presidential election. If you're looking for a book that goes through differences in policy between the two candidates, this is not for you. The only policy he claims to understand and has an opinion on was the estate tax proposed by candidate Hillary Clinton. Economic policy, foreign policy, etc. It is too complicated for a mere cartoonist to understand, and most likely for the rest of us as well. Adams operates from the moist robot hypothesis. He thinks free will is not real, but rather we respond to programming just like a robot would. We rationalize afterwards how we reached the conclusion that we reached or why we acted like we did. Learning to see the world through the persuasion filter can help you understand why people act like they do. Let's start with why facts are overrated. We all think we are cold, rational human beings that weigh all the facts before making a decision. Nothing could be further from the truth. A normal person might think we are rational 90% of the time, and every now and then we do something irrational and crazy. An expert in persuasion thinks humans are irrational 90% of the time, and just occasionally rational. We are only rational when it comes to things we are not emotional about. But as soon as we have emotions attached to something, we become irrational. We are all vulnerable to persuasion tactics. You might think you can resist persuasion techniques just by knowing them, but it is not as much protection as you might think. Everyone knows that stores price things at $9.99 because $10 sounds like it's too much, but it still works. Here are some other persuasion techniques that work. Reciprocity. We are all programmed to reciprocate kindness. If you want someone to do something for you in the future, do something nice for them today. The ideas that you think about the most rise in your head in priority. Even if you do not think something is important to you, it will become important to you if you think about it all the time. For example, by keeping media focused on the wall, Donald Trump kept it in the conversation and in the news all the time. Even the critics played straight into his hands. As long as they talked about the wall, it and Donald Trump rose in a priority in our heads. An intentional error in the details of your message draws your attention and keeps your focus on the subject. A master persuader moves energy and attention to where he needs them the most. Anchoring, a common persuasion technique used in negotiations, whereby mentioning a number first anchors the negotiations to that number. If you want to buy a used car and you are unsure of the price, and the dealer wants $20,000 for it, then you haggle it down from there. You will end up paying more than if the anchoring price would have been set lower from the start. The book really opens your eyes to new ways to see the world, such as facts are weaker than fiction. If you have tried to convince someone in a political argument using facts and figures, then you know how useless it is. They have their own facts and figures. Instead, try to convince people using stories. You can see this on the news all the time. Instead of reciting statistics, they usually tell one person's story, and this is more moving than all the facts in the world. This is especially manipulative if that one person's story is not indicative of how the world really is. Speaking of how the world really is, a filter does not give the user an accurate view of reality. The human brain is not capable of understanding truth at a deep level. We only need to understand enough to survive and procreate, and that is a really low bar. Scott Adams suggests we choose a filter that makes us happy and does a good job of predicting the future. Two concepts, confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance, explains how humans can be so delusional and not realize it. This can explain why humans act in so puzzling ways. Confirmation bias is the human reflex to interpret any new information as being supportive of the opinions we already hold. It doesn't matter how poorly the new information fits our existing views. Cognitive dissonance is the condition of mind in which evidence conflicts with a person's worldview to the degree that that person spontaneously generates a hallucination to rationalize the incongruity. The problem with cognitive dissonance is that it is almost impossible to know if we are subject to it. So it is really easy to assume it's just a thing that happens to others. We are of course way too smart for that to affect us. This can explain why humans act in so puzzling ways. This leads us to the last concept we're going to go into, what Scott Adams calls two movies on one screen. This is what he calls the phenomenon of how observers can see the same information and interpret it as to support two entirely different stories. On one screen we are living in a reality where a tyrannical fascist just got elected. On the other screen, a moderate center Republican is driving the other side to madness simply by not kowtowing to them. There's a lot more information and interesting stories in the book. It is way too much to do justice in this short video, so you should get the book for yourself. I will link it below if you want to buy the book from Amazon. I will also put a link to audible.com where you can get Win Bigly the audiobook for free. Just use my link to sign up. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. I hope you have a wonderful day.